Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Kahalo Yim Yahweh, Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem Rakak Wadash. That's the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, in whom we praise. Double honor to the apostles, elders, bishops of Great Millstone, who rule well over the flock of Israel. Shalom and salutation to you, Akim, out here pushing the words of truth and sincerity. Shalom to all the Lord's elect, Akim, Aqua, Scott Israelites, and Israelite foreigners. I brought this out. This video was edifying. It's myself, Rapah Math, and I'm gonna get right into it. Sometimes we bring out, oftentimes we bring out, destruction of America by way of thermonuclear fire, future biblical prophecy. And today I'm just going to do a little more focusing on some of the other signs of the times. The Matthew 24 tells you that, when they ask the Lord about when shall be the end of this time, they understand ages. They understood kingdoms and empires and the rise and falls. And you pay close attention to an empire based upon history. History repeats itself. So you have the fall of Rome to go by. You have the fall of Egypt. You have the fall of Greece, for instance. And there's a lot of attributes that were connected with those times that are similar to this time. For instance, we always get on the idea of debt, and or a country's inflation, but right before its fall, or its moral degradation before its fall. So, this is going to be kind of more of a pinpoint on those things, which shows you the same in which Babylon, which is spiritually America, is on its way out. It's on its way out the door. It's declining, and I'm going to prove that through pretty much like what do you call it, graphs and so forth, like studies. And so, this picture is just like a AI picture I found of robots working in a plant, or robots working at a manufacturing, or I forget what they call it, distribution plant, which this is factual because Walmart just opened up 5 AI distribution plants all across the East Coast. So it's real. It's not science fiction anymore. It's real life. So let's go into some of these articles, graphs, and see what we have to find. So the first one says falling relative wages of first and second generation workers. And, the American dream is pretty much all about, people being able to come into this land and own, work hard and, pretty much live and find the pursuit of happiness and live the American dream, just like native born American citizens are. But as you can see, based upon this graph, falling relative wages of first and second generation workers. So back in the 1940s, a hardworking first generation immigrant could make, around 5.8% of more than what native born Americans was making. And not Native American as far as GAD, but people who were born here. We're all considered Native Americans based on this graph if you were born in America. Second generation would make 14.6%. This is back from the 1940s to the 1970s. That takes one generation, about 30 years, right? On par with the scriptures. 1970, it went down, you see? And then it also went down for their children. So as you can see, usually the graph shows that every year it's supposed to go up. Every generation rather is called upward mobility. Your last generation should be making more. Well, this is the first time in history of America where it's downward mobility. You are not making as much as the generation before you. Matter of fact, you're making less. But as you can see, even though it sounds like it's the immigrants' paradise coming here to America, based upon 2000 numbers, they're making about 20% less than what the native-born Americans are making, and even their second generation is still making less, as you can see here in the years of 2030, which will be a full generation after the year 2000. So it's dropping. Overall, you see the scheme of things, the amount in which these immigrants is making when they come into the U.S. is dropping. And you think the U.S. don't know that while they bringing them in here? So ultimately, if the American dream is dying for an immigrant, it's dying on the inside too. Let's keep going. This is the annual installations of industrial robots. Why do they need industrial robots? because as I showed you in the first graph, they're replacing humans, workers with robots. All these manual jobs, they're going to be replaced very soon by AI. There's going to be a robot for your job very soon. And so you can see it on the line graph, it's going up from the year 2015 to the year 2020. You got a rise in installing industrial robots, right? So they're here to take your jobs. It's no longer the immigrant. And this is further why this graph in the life of, or the money for an immigrant, first and second generation, is going down, because you have somebody now to replace the immigrants. And it's these robots which are being installed. All right, let's keep going. You got the decline of the U.S. car production, right? So we went from 10 million units around 1975, and you can see this trickling decline all the way to 2010s. America is no longer producing cars. That's less jobs, that's less homes, that's less money buying power, that's less GDP. All right, that's a decline in production and a decline in overall living. You got proportions of populations on the Rust Belt. I had to look that up at first. What the Rust Belt is basically all of these factories along the everywhere from Ohio, the Midwest, so to speak, up to New York City. Okay, so these is where all the plants was, the old school plants from the 50s and the 40s and the 30s and the 20s and the 60s. And as you can see, all the way from the 50s, it's been a slow decline. The Rust Belt, people leaving that area because the jobs is gone. So America is in a decline. All right. Now, here we are with global debt. This map shows us the global debt. And global debt is what I first started talking about, which the scriptures also reference as Abatya. I'll get that real quick. Let's get that real quick. All right, this is Habakkuk 2:6. It says, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. You go into that word thick clay, and in interlinear, you're going to find out that the word there is abatya. And when you're dealing with thick clay, it's just a euphemism for heavy debts you see here. Wages, pledge, a weight of pledges and heavy debts. And when you pledge something, that means you're going to be there for something, or that's you're going to owe somebody. You're going to pay them back. But when you keep pledging and keep pledging and keep pledging, that just gives you heavy debt. And eventually, what's going to happen, the scriptures tell you, verse 7, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee and awake, that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? NLT says here, suddenly your debts will take action. They will turn on you and take all you have while you stand trembling and helpless. So there it is. All of these nations who have bought treasury bills and, put in all of their money into America to make money off of America, they're seeing that the money's being robbed now. All of their pledges have been used up, and now it's time to take action, and that's also going to allow them to hate the whore, right? So America's going to fall by way of greed as well. It says in verse 16, 16, thou art filled with shame for glory. And this is shameful. All of these different articles or graphs that I'm bringing out, they show the shame of how America once was this great place. And it was. You could see, immigrants is making more. You can come to this country, make all type of money, and your next generation would do better than you. This was the perfect place to be. Now they found a way to take advantage of that. So even that is a lie, and that is a trick. Now you come to this country, you will be making less than the native borns, no matter how hard you work, and your children will be making less than their second generation. So there's no more opportunity for immigrant, but they're still coming in the masses. What's the end result of this? You see, it's going to be crime. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy force can be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. So what's going to happen? The cup, anytime you're dealing with the cup of the Lord, you're dealing with judgment. It says the Lord's judgment. And all your glory will be turned to shame. So America, Babylon, It's going to be a very shameful place. You can see. All right. So pandemic blip, global debt, which remained significantly higher than its pre-pandemic level last year, may return to its long-term rising trend. So as you can see, what's been happening since the early days or the 1950s. It's been a nice little incline, which is getting steeper and steeper, of national debt and public debt. The yellow indicates the public debt. The blue indicates the household debt, which is also rising. And corporate debt is also rising. But that nothing's rising like that public debt, very steep in the year 2022. So it's only going to get worse, man. More debt, more batyat, more thick clay. Woe to them. All right. U.S. federal debt relative to GDP. Starting with the 1940s, it was 40% of the GDP was the debt, right? It was only 40% of the GDP. It rose to levels above 100 to 120% by the 1950s, a great deal of debt. And then there was a period in which it looked like there was going to be no debt in America, no relative debt in comparison to the GDP. So America was doing pretty good at that time, 1980s, I guess the Reagan era, Nixon era, Reagan era. And then you had just a rocky uprising all the way up until now, where the GDP or the national debt is around 125% of the GDP, all-time high. So that means America doesn't even produce enough money to take care of the national debt on a yearly basis. And it's going up, right? You can see this big jump. That's over 100 or 20% leap in 2 years. So the last few years have been terrible for the national debt under Biden, pretty much. Fentanyl is a growing problem in the U.S. So don't just stop at, jobs and debt, but there's also a moral problem, man. There's also a drug epidemic going on. Look at this, man. All right, from the 2010s up to the 2020s, that's 10 years. You have fentanyl doses being like a little bit of, 10% of deaths was fentanyl without stimulants. Now, by 2020s, it's a good 25%. So what this illustrates is that fentanyl use and overdoses is growing. Fentanyl use and stimulants is growing. So about all 50%, if not 75% of all overdose is, at least 50% is caused with fentanyl in their system. Fentanyl epidemic, man. All right, where's all the fentanyl coming from? What are we trying to fund again? Just like the Iran-Contra scandal. Crack and cocaine used to fund the Iran-Contra war, or Vietnam, or one of these wars, opiate wars. Anytime there's a high death rate by way of drugs, there's a war that America's trying to fund in another country. Usually, right? Yeah, that's how the CIA gets down. Fred. All right, let's look at this. It says life expectancy at birth. So now we're dealing with life expectancy. And U.S. was always a reigning place for life expectancy, except Japan. Now, this is 2020, as you can see, 2011. So this is last 2 decades. And life expectancy in Japan, they don't tell you this. It's 83. For high income countries, it's been 80 since 2011. The U.S. was at, right about 78.5 in 2011. Now watch, U.S. follow the trajectory right around 2019 to 2020, it just goes down. All right, your life expectancy drop without you even knowing. You know what? For the first time, U.S. life expectancy is less than China. This line is China crossing over in 2019. Crossing over the U.S. right here. So they are expected to live longer than U.S. All right. So that's a myth. Trend in eighth grade history scores. Look at the trend in eighth grade history scores. You could say best education, but since 94, it's been right over basic. But ever since 2014 to 2018 to 2022, it's a drop. Average history score lowest in 28 years. So education's at an all-time low. You see the trend here? You see what's going on here? Numeracy and literacy rates in 2012 since 1947. All right, U.S. literacy rates, U.S. numeracy rates, people able to read and understand numbers. Look at this sharp turn, downturn, and people understanding numbers. All right, since the 80s, everything went down. Education is going down. This graph says, what's the main reason Congress can't get things done? 36% say a few members who refuse to compromise and keep things from getting done. 48%, the parties have grown too far apart that they can't agree on solutions. So you can't even get solutions passed and bills passed anymore because majority of people in Congress are so far apart in their ideologies that they won't even come together to agree on anything and won't get shit done. So you can vote all you want for your party, but just understand when your party gets to the Senate House or the Congress seat, you won't be able to pass any bills because on the other side won't allow it to pass, and you need a certain amount of votes, so-called, to pass votes. The only thing people that really get stuff done is AIPAC. That's the Israeli what you call it, party, pretty much, that pushes for their agendas. All right, lobbyist group. All right, experts agree that U.S. democracy is in decline. This title says it enough. It's from the Brookings Institute, very reputable. All right, percentage of the first graph is democracy index. U.S. designated a flawed democracy, and it's been falling from 2010 to 2020. The next one is democracy, a liberal democracy index, falling. So it's not a democracy anymore, it's falling. And the Freedom House, freedom in the world, has been falling. So U.S. is in the decline. You see it there. Americans tend to say U.S. influence around the world is diminishing and China is getting stronger. So even your Americans, if you can't listen to us, right, listen to your Americans. What are the Americans saying? It's getting, China's getting stronger and U.S. is getting weaker. Percentage of adults who say each country's influence in the world has been blank in recent years. Getting stronger, only 19% say that. Of the population of America, of adults. Staying about the same, only 32%. Getting weaker, 7%. Almost half America think it's getting weaker. If you ask them, is China getting stronger? 66% of adults say it's getting stronger. That you know right there what direction it's going into. This says majority of Republicans say U.S. global influence is weakening. That's why Republicans are always talking about, China. China. Because again, they believe U.S. is just getting weak. And it is. They right. Then you got this whole, systematic destruction of the environment, man. Habitat loss, right? Taking up all the fish out the ocean. So-called climate change, which is blamed on the climate, but is really pollution. Pollution, invasive species, and so they'll blame anybody but Edomites. How about the decline in birth rates? Live births per 1,000 people for the top 49 most populous countries in the 2021. From 1950s, from 2021s, most countries, they're declining. That's why that's slanting from the top down, if you don't understand graphs. This says China has the 5th lowest birth rate. Why are all these countries, except for Dominic, that's Congo right here, DRC. See, Jakes, them Jakes over there in the Congo, they don't care. But why are most of these countries, and look where the lowest The lowest birth rates are France, Germany, Edomite countries. You see why they got to move? See why they are time sensitive? Last graph, I believe. Yep. Distrust makes problem solving harder. Percentage of adults who believe Americans trust in the government has been shrinking 75%. 75%. In each other, 64%. Percentage of adults who believe America's low trust in the federal government makes it harder to solve problems, 64%. All right. So distrust, debt, jobs, literacy rates, income rates dropping, birth rates declining. I'd say that this is pretty much the end. So let's keep going. Revelations 18:1. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was enlightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon is the fallen, Babylon the great is fallen, and is becoming the habitation of devils, and the whole of every foul spirit and every unclean and hateful bird. Habitation of devils, unclean birds, and foul spirits is dealing with these animals these birds that populate deserted areas. All right. Right. As I said in the NLT, hideout for every foul vulture. Okay. So all them desert dwelling creatures are going to be here in Babylon. Why? Because it's going to be turned into a desert. It's going to be desolate, made desolate by the waster. All right. The Most High's weapons with his indignation and wrath, which are these ICBMs. All nations have drank of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And this is what I'm brought out all these articles responding to, the fact that, or this is why I brought out this precept, because in response to these articles, because most of these articles or these graphs started with 1950 statistics in which things were looking on the up and up. Immigrants could come in here and make money, and people worked these jobs, and there wasn't robots trying to take over your jobs at that time, and there wasn't so much. National debt was on a decline, and private debt was on decline, and you could own a home, and American dream was alive and well. So all these nations would come over here, and they committed fornication with her, man. It says, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. You see? So all this, the nations didn't mind that they were drinking of the Babylonian wine and being made drunk and committing abominations with the whore, which is America, right? They didn't mind because they were waxing rich. There was abundant delicacies at one point in time in this country, you see, through the graphs. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that you may not be partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. So you spiritually come out of her, because this place, again, people are being made drunk here with the wrath of her fornication. This is cup filled with abominations, right? You got to be a degenerate to actually succeed here. And the longer you're here, the scriptures tell you this place shall utterly pollute you. So you come out of her, because it's going to receive of the plagues which are written, right? Prescribed for this place, which is fire. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her, even as she rewarded you, double unto her, double according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled to her double. So the Most High requires all that which is past, including slavery, including the indigenous removal, the trail of tears, and all the evils and displacement that Esau has done. Grape, robbery, and murder. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am not and am no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine. She shall be utterly burned with fire. This is where ICBMs come in the picture. For strong is the Lord who judgeth her, right? But again, this is dealing with why Babylon is, you can see that Babylon is in the decline, right? Right? That's the sentence and the judgment against Babylon. That's going to be the justice, you know, and atonement for all of the sins that came of Babylon. But why did all of this happen? Why, but what's that's the for the cause of what, are the whoredoms that she committed throughout the world, but up until that time, at one point Babylon was this great place, right? It was this empire in which you could pursue happiness and live in a dream. You know that they got that song, "This land is your land, this land is my land. From this to the New York Island, and this land was made for you and me." And you got American Dream. You got Born in the USA. And, at some point in time, this was a place where your life expectancy was higher than other countries, and you can come here and make a profit. The American Dream. The Lord took all of that away. It says, "And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is our judgment come." It's thermonuclear fire. "And the merchants of the earth shall weep." Who are the merchants? People that make money. The bankers and traders. All right? And, all the billionaires and trillionaires of the world says, "Shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore." Yeah, you don't got nobody to sell all your goods to. Globalization is shut down now. "The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and of fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all the thyine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and of brass and of iron and of marble." And as you can see, the Rust Belt population declines. So all of these production companies, and look, they don't even make cars no more. They don't need your iron and brasses, and right, industries have fallen in America. Literacy rates is falling. History test is at an all-time low in America. This place is on the way out. If you don't understand history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? It says, "In cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and breasts," and it's like in beasts and breasts too, right? No, but in beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls." Yeah, that was Babylon at one point in time. That's the history of this place. It was a beacon of light. It was a shining example of what democracy can bring to the world. For in 1 hour, so great riches come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dung on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. You see, everybody that made money off of Babylon is gonna be crying, man. If your cash cow dies, man, you shed a tear, man. Not only for the animal, but you just lost a lot of your income just now. And that's what it's like when America's going to be destroyed. It says, for 1 hour she's made desolate. Bang, Proverbs 29:2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. Straight like that. Isaiah 6:29-16, surely a turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as a potter's clay. Everything is upside down. Well, morality, if the people are upside down, the minds of the people are upside down. You made them more degenerate, and you also took money from them in the meantime. You destroyed families, Esau. You actively destroyed ecosystems and agriculture and burned livestock for your illegitimate bastard plan of a new world order, Esau. Well, your things shall be esteemed as a potter's clay. And what is a potter allowed to do with his clay? Break it up. It says, "For shall the work of him that made it say he made me not, or shall the thing framed of him that framed it? He he had no understanding." So you're doing all these things, trying to redesign the way life works and the way people are, and biohack your way into the kingdom of heaven. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna happen. You're trying to make the potter, call the potter stupid. I'm about to out this video. Is that a fun? Until next time. Shalom.